Hello everyone and welcome to Cinderful Gaming. I hope you're all doing well, I hope you're all staying safe, and most of all, I hope you're all fighting that war against the Grey. Today's video, we're going to look at a Start Collecting Age of Sigmar 3rd edition video, and we're going to look at the Start Collecting box for the Stormcast Eternals called the Thunderstrike Brotherhood box set. Now, a little bit of history on this box set. This is the original Stormcast half from the very first Age of Sigmar starter set. It's got a really cool set of minis. Some of these models are absolutely amazing. I still love a ton of the models inside this box set, which is really cool. And so the first thing here to talk about, I guess, is what is inside the box set. And after we've talked about all the units in here and what they bring to the table, we'll talk about how we can expand this box set, and we'll finish off by showing you both the endless spells and how we can also bring in the rest of the army and bring it all together in a little army list. So for starters, we've got Vandus Hammerhand. He is a Hammers of Sigmar specific named character hero. You could also always use this model as just a regular Lord Celestin or Dracoth if you wish and you're not wanting to go down Hammers of Sigmar. However, for the purposes of this video, we'll be focusing on using him as Vandus and using the Hammers of Sigmar here. So, Vandus is pretty cool. He first of all gives out and ignores Battle Shock Bubble around him to all friendly units. He then also gets to give a unit an extra attack, which can be really cool on some of your more powerful units in the box. On top of that, he gets extra attacks in combat. He's a little bit more fighty than your average sort of Lord Celestin on Dracoth. We then have a Lord Relictor. So Lord Relictor is probably the best priest available to Stormcast Eternals. He's got some really cool abilities. First of all, not being that he just gets +1 to prayers, which is really great. He's got access to some really cool prayers as well in the Stormcast Eternals battle tome, but also you've got good generic prayers. Things like Curse are really strong. Now, he also has his own 2 War Scroll prayers as well. One of them can heal D3 and one of them does D3 damage. Both pretty darn solid. For our units, we've got a unit of 10 Liberators inside this box set, which is pretty cool. So the Liberators here, they are a decent battle line unit. They've got a 4-up save base, but they've got +1 save built in thanks to their shields, so long as more models have shields than don't. And they've also got Lalo the Tyrants, where they have this rule where if they're near objectives, they actually get to do some mortal wounds to enemies that are fighting them at the end of the fight. Pretty cool. Next up, we've got 3 Prosecutors. I don't think any unit saw as much of a leap in how good it was in the new book than Prosecutors. That's not saying they're the most amazing unit in the book right now, but they do definitely serve a purpose more than they ever used to. This unit has Celestial Hammers, and while they're not maybe the best version, maybe you could go find some extra Stormcast Shields and some Javelins and convert these up to be the Javelins and Shield, because that is really where the money is on Prosecutors. But even this unit here is a fantastic screening and harrying unit. So Prosecutors have this really cool rule called Dispersed Formation, where they can deploy in their unit composition 3 inches away from each other rather than the 1 required. What this means is they can have this massive frontage on the unit. So 3 Prosecutors roughly, because they've got 3 inches between each of them, they can keep 3 inches either side of the unit from harm, and they've also got 40mm bases that actually can block up around about 16 inches of table space. It's really, really useful to have this unit as a great screen. We've then got a unit of 3 Retributors. Now, this unit is below the required size. However, there are a ton of these box sets that went on sale. You'll be able to find a couple of spare Retributors on eBay or a buy swap sale group easily enough. You could easily go find a couple of spare Retributors, or with some of the Mortal Realms magazines coming out, there's some of those that include extra Retributors. Get this unit up to 5, and it's a really cool unit. They have the rule where if they roll 6 to hit, they do 2 mortal wounds and the damage sequence ends, which is really solid, but they also rend 2 damage 2 on their normal attacks anyway, so they're going to get through a lot of damage. A great unit that's going to make a lot of use of the +1 attack that they get from Vandus Hammerhand. Not only that, but Lord Relictor can use some prayers to really make them quite devastating. And so now let's take a quick look at the endless spells before we look at how we can expand our army into other sections. And so here we have the endless spells for Stormcast Eternals. Now, I will mention there are no wizards in this particular box set, so you will need to actually get a Stormcast wizard in order to be able to use these endless spells. But we've got the Dias Arcanum. This is pretty much a endless spell that your wizard gets to stand atop on. He gets 12-inch move and fly, which is really cool, and he also gets to attempt to unbind 1 extra spell in the enemy's hero phase, and it's also -1 to hit. So it gives a cool Stormcast Eternal wizard some really good utility, because don't forget, most of those wizards that are below 8 wounds are on a 3 3-up save. Things like the Knight Incantor, Knight Arcanum, all that, they're below 8 wounds and they're on a 3-up save, so they can be a 2-up, -1 to hit, flying around 12-inch, a great pinning piece to use in your army. We then got the Celestian Vortex, which is the only predatory endless spell that Stormcast Eternals get in their army-specific ones. This one, so you pick one unit that's been rolled over, you roll 12 dice, and for each 6 you do a mortal wound. In addition, you subtract 1 from hit rolls from missile weapon units that are within 6 inches of this endless spell. This is sort of, the Hammerado here sort of whips up a fury and stops arrows and all that being able to be used properly. Lastly, we have the Everblaze Comet. This is a really long-range endless spell that doesn't move once it's down. You subtract 1 from casting rolls for enemy wizards nearby it. What this means is you can use it to sort of, if your opponent's got a little wizard bunker, you can shoot it down near them to get that -1 to cast on them. And in addition, after this endless spell is set up, any unit within 10 inch of it, you roll and they'll potentially take some mortal wounds, potentially D6, which can be really devastating too, those little wizard bombs you're going to try and get. But where do we go to next with our Stormcast Eternals army? Well, first of all, we've got the heroes of the Stormhost. There is a ton of hero options available to Stormcast Eternals, from the Lord Castellan, Lord Veritan, to all the different knight models like the Venator, Arcanum, Relictor, etc. There's a ton of hero options, and there's so many. Some really good ones, I think, in this particular army. Castellan's really cool to go along with your Paladins, making sure he can keep them on a 2-up save with his Lantern. Veritan's another priest option, as is the Knight Relictor. You've got cool shooting heroes like the Knight Judicator and Knight Venator. The Knight Azeroth has a nice little buff he can use as well. There's just so many different pieces here you can play around, and they're really cool models. I love a ton of the different Lord and Knight models available to Stormcast Eternals. Next up, we've got Paladins. Now, Retributors are one of our Paladin options, but they're not the only one we get access to in Stormcast. So we've got Decimators here. Their ability is they get 2 extra attacks on their already good 5 attacks when they're fighting units that outnumber them, so 7 attacks at Rend 2, Damage 1 is pretty good. And then we've got Protectors, which have their long glaives, which have a 3-inch range, is their big thing about them. We've also got the brand new Annihilators as well, who do mortal wounds when they come crash down, and they do mortal wounds on impact, and they got a 2-up save if you choose the big shield option as well. They don't kick out mortal wounds in combat like Retributors do. We've also got Dracothian Guard, which are effectively like Paladins, but mounted on these little mini Drake creatures, which are really cool. 3-up save base means they're going to go to that 2-up, much like the Paladins before them, and you've got a similar sort of variation. You've got ones with glaives that have a longer range, you've got ones with axes, you've got ones that are also with, I guess, these shooting weapons, so some bolts-on crossbows. You've got also ones that are, I guess, a very similar equivalent to your Retributors, but on these Dracos. A really cool unit you can add in. I mean, these look great when surrounded by Vanus Hammerhands, Dracoth leader with Dracoth next to him. Pretty cool. The other thing I want to suggest having a look at is looking at your Vanguard Chamber for the Stormcast Eternals. This is a really interesting release of Stormcast Eternals that gave us some sort of movement abilities that otherwise we might not have normally had in Stormcast Eternals. The Vanguard Chamber, a lot of their units have the ability to teleport around the battlefield. The Paladors have free teleports, much like the hero variation, the Lord Aquila. And the Vanguard Hunter unit, they're a foot troop option. While they don't get a free teleport, they do get to pick up and teleport and then go around the battlefield edges. So you've got some really cool options there. All some great pieces here to sort of add to your Stormcast Eternals force. But lastly, what I want to do is we put together a little sample army list using the things we mentioned, Hammers of Sigmar and Vanders as our focal point, to show you how we can sort of bring all this together and make a really fun and interesting army. Now, normally we do these at 750 points because that's roughly what a Star Collecting box normally gives you. However, this one here almost gives you 1,000 points, and we're using every model in the box, and we probably can't fit anything else into it that much. So a pretty cool box set to give you a really decent size starter army here. For starters, obviously, we're playing Stormcast Eternals, and we're playing in the Hammers of Sigmar. What Hammers of Sigmar gives us, first of all, is Vandus' actual chamber. This is who he leads. And then it also gives us a 6-up ward save whilst we're on objectives, so really cool. We're then going for Hold the Line, which means we just have to have a battle line unit survive the battle, which is pretty cool. The Liberators can be really survivable when used right, especially in conjunction with the Hammers of Sigmar ward save ability. And then we've got the Triumph Inspired, which is going to give us a +1 to wound, really solid on some of our units here. Vandus is, of course, going to be in the army, but we're going to make our Lord Relictor our general. He's going to have the command trait Envoy of the Heavens, which means if one of our units gets targeted and they finish their attacks and they've actually slain a model from the unit, they're going to get +1 save if they're nearby him. We've then got an artifact, the Amulet of Destiny on him, giving him a 5-up ward, keeping him that little bit more alive. And then we've got the Prayer, Divine Light, where we get to actually pick an enemy unit, and we get to, all our units that attack that single unit get rerolls to hit of 1, which is really, really solid. The fact that we can sort of pick a target and kill it is really useful. Battle line, 2 units of 5 Liberators. Solid battle line unit here. They're going to sit on the objectives. Meanwhile, we've got Prosecutors, which are going to act as a good harrying unit and a good screen for our army. And then 5 Retributors. These guys are going to go up with Vandus, and they're going to be the main sort of thrust of the army, doing the damage that we need to sort of remove our opponent's units off the objectives. You combine this well with Vandus' ability to give them +1 attack. They're hopefully going to do that extra couple of mortal wounds, which is going to be really, really strong. For Battalion, we've got a Battle Regiment, everything here wrapped up in one single Battle Regiment, meaning it's going to be a 1-drop army. And then for the additional enhancement, we've got the Holy Command Call for Aid. This is really cool because it allows us, if one unit of Redeemers, which both our Liberator units are, is destroyed, we can bring back a unit of 5 Liberators if the unit was 5 or less that was destroyed, which both ours, once again, are, and put it on the table near a hero. So a pretty cool little command ability. We're coming to 935 points, so there is a few points to play around with. If you're not keen on Retributors and you picked up some other Paladins, maybe that's an option here. You've got some other options. You might even be able to feed in Dracothian Guard instead of your Paladins. And you've got a few sort of things to play around with, which is nice. But no reinforced units, no allies, 56 wounds, and a 1-drop army. This is a solid start to a Stormcast Eternals force. If you've picked up this box set and you're starting Stormcast Eternals with the new edition, this is a really great box set to pick up, and a bit different of an army than what you're going to get inside the Dominion box or any of the new starter sets for Warhammer Age of Sigmar. Well, that's the end of the video. We hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. And if you'd like to, you can come over and chat more with us here at Sinful Gaming and our fine little community over on Discord. You'll find a link to that Discord in the description of the video. Lastly, we'd like to give a shout out to everyone who helps support the channel via Patreon and YouTube members. And if you'd like to help support the channel via Patreon or YouTube members, you can do so by one of the links in the video's description once again. But a special shout out to all our patrons: Christian Weir, James, Soren, Chaos Spawn, AJC, Kenny Lyle, Outer and Shop First, Andrew Bowen, Nathan Fee, The Rising Ape, Q Dynamic, Agu, Anthony B, and Dynat226. And another special shout out to our YouTube members: Greenridge Gaming, Kenton Young, Steve T, The Real Zeop, Chris Wallace, Turo12, Vinny, Lock Lorick, Matt Mollin, Becca Kinski Groupie, and the Johnny84. And lastly, a definite special shout out first of all to Lady Witchfox Art, who does all the amazing artwork for the channel, and to Xmorphic, who does all the background work for our Discord server, keeping everything there running smoothly, because I am completely computer illiterate. Thank you very much. But that's it for the video. Hope you enjoyed it. Please don't forget to leave a like and subscribe again. Stay safe, stay well, and most of all, keep fighting that war against the Grey. Ciao for now.